This is a video lesson for day 3 of our decimals unit. The learning target for today's lesson is I can use the area model and number line to represent mixed numbers with units of ones, tenths, and hundredths in fraction and decimal form. So this lesson is going to be all about continuing to build our understanding of decimals, and we're going to be looking at extending our understanding of the area model and the number line to represent these decimals. So let's go ahead and take a look at our first strategy. The first strategy that we're going to be using here is we're going to be representing decimal fractions with an area model. So we've previously done this work with tenths, but today we're going to be adding in our hundredths and representing fractions that have hundredths as a part of them using an area model. So I'm going to be representing 1 and 22 hundredths using an area model. So you can see here that I have two squares, two area models, and each of them is equal to one whole. So to start, I'm going to actually fill in one of them completely because I know in my number 1 and 22 hundredths, I have one whole. So I'm going to go ahead and fill in the first area model completely here. So I've represented the one whole right here. So that one whole has been represented with this area model. So now all I need to do is represent the 22 hundredths. So in order to do this, I currently have my second area model right here, partitioned into tenths. I'm actually going to need to draw horizontal partitions until I've created tenths horizontally. So I'm going to keep partitioning here. Okay, and then I'm going to partition below. My goal is to create 10 partitions horizontally. So now if you look at the side length of this area model, we've created 10 partitions horizontally, and then vertically we all still have, the 10 partitions vertically. So that gives us, that means that each little single tiny dot, like this little dot right here, is worth 1/100th. So because we have it partitioned into hundredths now, we can easily represent 22 hundredths by filling in 22 individual partitions. So I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. So there's 10 hundredths. There's 20 hundredths, and 20 and 2 is 22 hundredths. So right now I've created the fraction or the mixed number of 1 and 22 hundredths with the area model right here. And so I can represent this with written as a decimal as 1 and 22 hundredths. So there's 3 different ways we can represent the same value: as a mixed number, as a decimal, and with an area model. So let's go ahead and do one more. For this area model, I'm going to be representing 1 and 38 hundredths. So once again, since I have one whole, I can go ahead and fill in the first area model completely. And when I'm filling in the second, I'm actually going to use a little bit of a different strategy. Before I partition it into hundredths, if I look at my number of 1 and 38 hundredths, I could see that I have 3 tenths in the tenths place. So I'm actually going to fill in my 3 tenths first. And now all I have left is I have 8 hundredths that I need to partition. So I'm going to go ahead and partition my area model into hundredths now. Again, I'm trying to be as accurate as possible as I split my area model into hundredths. They're not exactly right, but that's okay. I can still see the hundredths in my head as I go. So we say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Perfect. So now I have hundredths, and you can see I already have 30 hundredths shaded in. So now I just need to add 8 more hundredths. And there you have it. I have 1 and 38 hundredths represented as a decimal. an area model, and I can write that as a fraction as well. So 3 different ways that we can represent those values. So that's the first strategy, extending our understanding of the area model, now including hundredths like we did in this area model right here. The second strategy we're going to be looking at today is representing decimal fractions on the number line. So I'm going to be using the example of 1 and 22 hundredths from our previous problem and show how we can represent that on the number line. So we're going to be representing this number on this value on the number line by doing a series of jumps. And the jumps on the number line are going to be, we're going to be starting with the ones place, then doing the tens place, and then the hundredths place. So starting with the ones place, we're going to start at 0, and we're going to make a jump from 0 to 1 whole, because we have 1 whole in the ones place. Then we're going to move over to our tenths place, and if we notice that our number line is partitioned into 10 equal parts between the whole numbers, that means each little hash mark between the holes is equal to 1/10. So that means that in order to get to 2 tenths, which we have in our tenths place, we're going to jump 2 little tick marks, and that's going to show 2 tenths. Then, finally, to show our 2 hundredths, we're going to need to do a little bit of estimating, because we have to imagine that the space between each of these tick marks is split into 10 equal parts, and we're going to be just jumping 2 of those. So I'm going to make the teeniest tiny little jump right here, and that's going to be adding 2 hundredths, and so we represent 1 and 22 hundredths at about this point on the number line. So 1 and 22 hundredths. So once again, we do that by doing a series of jumps starting with our largest place value, then moving down to our smaller place values. So let's take a look at one more example here. This time we're going to be showing 2 and 46 hundredths on the number line. So my first jump is going to be my ones place, so my whole numbers. So I'm going to go from 0 to 2. So there's my 2 wholes. Then I'm going to jump 4 tenths, so that's going to be 4 of these large tick marks. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's going to get me right here. And then I'm going to have to do a little bit of estimating to see the 6 hundredths. I imagine the space between this tick mark and this tick mark is split into 10 equal parts. And I think that's going to be about right there for 6 hundredths. And so I have the point right here of 2 and 46 hundredths. You can also represent that as a mixed number. So there you have it, the 2 different strategies we have for extending our understanding of decimals with hundredths. So you should be ready to go for all of the day 3 problems on the problem set. But if you get stuck or need any refreshing, you can come back and re-watch any part of the video. So good luck, and thanks for watching.